My name is Allie. I'm 28 years old, and 3 days ago I watched my entire childhood get thrown into garbage bags while thousands of strangers cheered in a live stream chat. I stood in my bedroom doorway completely frozen as my mother directed my siblings like some twisted film crew, tossing my most precious belongings into trash bags while calling me toxic and ungrateful for the entertainment of their online audience. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, please subscribe because this story might help you understand you're not alone. Growing up in our beautiful suburban home in Colorado, anyone looking from the outside would have thought we had the perfect family. My mother, Patricia, had carefully crafted this image over the years, posting endless Facebook photos of family gatherings, holiday celebrations, and milestone moments. But those posts never told the real story. I was the daughter from her first marriage, and after my father died when I was 8, I became the ghost in my own home. My mother remarried Robert 2 years after Dad passed, and quickly had my half-siblings Jake and Emma. Jake, now 26, had become the golden child of fitness influencer, with 50,000 followers who could do no wrong in Mom's eyes. Emma, 24, ran a beauty channel with 30,000 subscribers, and Mom treated her like a princess. Meanwhile, I worked 12-hour shifts as a pediatric nurse, paid rent for my childhood bedroom, bought my own groceries, and ate dinner alone while listening to my family laugh together downstairs. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It was a slow erosion of my place in the family, so gradual that I sometimes questioned if I was imagining it. When Jake needed new camera equipment for his channel, everyone was expected to contribute. When Emma wanted to attend an expensive makeup masterclass, the family rallied together. But when I needed help with my nursing school textbooks, I was told to figure it out myself because I chose an expensive career path. 2 weeks before the incident that changed everything, Jake had approached me about contributing $500 toward his new camera setup. He said it was an investment in the family's future, that his success would benefit everyone. When I explained that I needed that money for my own apartment search, he laughed. He actually laughed and said I would never leave because I couldn't survive without them. That same evening, I made a decision that apparently sealed my fate. During dinner, which I was actually invited to for once because they needed to discuss their content strategy, Mom announced that they wanted to start featuring the whole family in their videos. She had this grand vision of becoming one of those family channels that document everything. When she looked at me expectantly, I calmly stated that I didn't want to be in any of their content. I valued my privacy, especially working in healthcare where professional boundaries mattered. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's fork stopped midway to her mouth. Jake set down his phone for probably the first time during a meal. Robert just stared at his plate. But Mom's face was what I'll never forget. It went from surprise to confusion to cold fury in the span of 3 seconds. She didn't yell. That would have been easier to handle. Instead, she simply said that if I didn't want to be part of this family's success, maybe I should reconsider whether I belonged in this family at all. The cold shoulder started immediately. Suddenly, family dinners happened without anyone telling me. Vacation plans were made in a group chat I discovered I wasn't part of. My birthday came and went without acknowledgement, while Emma's birthday, a week later, was celebrated with a party that 50 people attended. I started working extra shifts at the hospital, volunteering for the night rotations. Nobody wanted anything to avoid being home. My patients became my family. The other nurses noticed I was picking up every holiday shift every weekend. When they asked, I just said I needed the money, which wasn't entirely false. I was saving every penny for my escape plan. The apartment hunting began in secret. During my lunch breaks, I would view places always alone, always careful not to mention it to anyone who might know my family. I found a small one-bedroom apartment 20 minutes from the hospital. Nothing fancy, but it had big windows that let in natural light and a tiny balcony where I could grow plants. The landlord said I could move in within a month. I just needed to save up the security deposit. The last real conversation I had with my mother was 5 days before everything exploded. She cornered me in the kitchen while I was making coffee before my shift. She said she had been patient with my selfishness, but my refusal to support Jake and Emma's careers was affecting the whole family's reputation. Apparently, people in their online communities were asking why I never appeared in videos, and my absence was becoming conspicuous. I tried to explain again that I simply valued my privacy, that my work at the hospital required professional boundaries, but she cut me off. She said the words that would echo in my mind for days to come. If you don't want to be part of this family's success, then don't expect to benefit from it either. At the time, I thought she meant emotional support or family gatherings. I had no idea she meant something far more literal. That Tuesday started like any other day. I had worked the night shift in the pediatric ward holding a sick baby whose parents couldn't stay overnight, administering medications and charting patient progress until 7 in the morning. By the time I got home around 8, I usually had the house to myself. Mom would be at her part-time job at the local boutique Robert at his accounting firm, and my siblings typically slept until noon. But something felt different when I pulled up to the house. There were 3 cars I didn't recognize in our driveway. One was a newer model SUV with a media company sticker on the back window. Another looked like it belonged to someone young covered in gaming and anime decals. The third was a pristine white sedan I'd never seen before. I sat in my car for a moment, exhaustion making my thoughts fuzzy. Maybe Mom was having some kind of meeting. Maybe Jake had invited friends over. It wasn't unusual for my siblings to have people over without telling me. I grabbed my work bag and headed inside, already thinking about my bed and blackout curtains. The moment I opened the front door, I heard it. Laughter loud and performative coming from upstairs. Multiple voices, not just my family. And underneath it all, the distinctive sound of Emma's ring light, that electronic hum I'd learned to associate with her filming. As I climbed the stairs, my migraine from the night shift pounded harder with each step. Jake's voice carried down the hallway, excited and energized, in a way that meant he was performing for an audience. Guys, the viewer count just hit 5,000. This is insane. You're all amazing 5,000, what? I wondered, my hand gripping the banister. The sounds were coming from the direction of my room, which made no sense. My door was always locked when I left for work. It was the one boundary I had managed to maintain in this house. When I reached the top of the stairs and turned toward my room, my brain couldn't immediately process what I was seeing. My door was wide open, not just unlocked, but the lock had been completely removed, the wood splintered around where it used to be. And inside my room, chaos. My mother stood in the center of my room holding a garbage bag, throwing my belongings into it with theatrical vigor. Emma was positioned by my bookshelf, her phone mounted on a tripod, narrating every move with the kind of false concern she had perfected for her beauty disaster reaction videos. Jake had his professional camera, the expensive one I had refused to help buy, and he was capturing multiple angles of the destruction. But it wasn't just them. There were 2 other people I didn't recognize also filming with their phones. Everyone was so absorbed in their performance that they didn't notice me standing in the doorway. Emma's voice was what made everything click into horrible focus. And this is what happens when you choose strangers over family, everyone. This is years' worth of hoarding and selfishness that Mom has had to live with. We're finally helping her clean out this toxic energy from our home. I looked at Emma's phone screen, which was facing partially toward me. The live stream title read, "Cleaning Out Toxic Daughter's Hoard. Live." The viewer count showed 5,300 and climbing. The chat was moving so fast I could barely read it, but I caught glimpses of heart emojis, laughing faces, and comments like, "She deserves it," and "Your mom is so patient." Mom was putting on quite the performance. She held up my college diploma, the one I had worked 3 jobs to earn, and shook her head sadly. All this education, and she still doesn't understand what family means. Into the trash it went. My nursing awards, the ones I had earned for exceptional patient care, were next. She thinks she's better than us because she helps strangers. Mom said, her voice dripping with false hurt. But she won't even help her own brother buy equipment for his career. Jake zoomed in as she found my father's watch, the one thing I had left of his besides pictures. "This was my first husband's," she explained to the audience. "She keeps it like some kind of shrine living in the past, instead of accepting her real family." I watched her throw it into the bag with such casual indifference that my chest physically hurt. But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I stood there frozen in my doorway as they systematically destroyed 28 years of my life. Emma found my photo albums, the ones with pictures of Dad and me. "Look at this, everyone," she said, flipping through pages. She keeps hundreds of photos of a man who's been gone for 20 years but won't even take a single picture with us for our channels. The chat was eating it up. Donations started appearing on screen. People were actually paying money to watch my family destroy my belongings. Someone donated $50 with the message, "Teach that ungrateful brat a lesson." Jake opened my closet and started pulling out my scrubs. She has 20 pairs of these ugly hospital clothes, but wouldn't buy one outfit to support Emma's fashion videos. Every item was held up, commented on, and tossed. They found my jewelry box, the one my grandmother had left me in her will. Mom's eyes lit up when she opened it. "She's been hiding this from us," she announced. "My mother's jewelry that was supposed to be for the whole family, and she kept it all for herself." That was a complete lie. Grandma's will had specifically left that jewelry to me with a handwritten note saying she wanted her first granddaughter to have it. Mom had been there when the will was read. She knew exactly what she was doing. The violation continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. They went through my drawers, my closet, my desk. Every private thing was made public. Every precious memory was treated like garbage, and still I stood there unable to move or speak my mind, struggling to process that this was really happening. The moment they noticed me standing in the doorway, the energy in the room shifted. Mom was the first to see me, and her face transformed into an expression of mock surprise mixed with satisfaction. "Oh, look who decided to show up," she announced to the camera, her voice carrying that false sweetness she had perfected over the years. Emma immediately adjusted her phone's angle to capture my entrance. "Everyone, Allie just got here. Let's see what she has to say about us finally cleaning up her mess." The viewer count on her screen jumped to 8,000. The chat exploded with anticipation, comments flying by about drama, and "this is getting good." Jake moved to get a better angle with his professional camera circling around to capture both Mom and me in the frame. His face wore that cocky smile that meant he thought he was creating content gold. "Don't worry, everyone, I'm getting every second of this," he assured his audience. I stepped into my room, my work bag still on my shoulder, my mind oddly clear despite the chaos around me. No tears came, no angry words bubbled up. Instead, I felt a strange calm settle over me, like watching a movie I had seen before, and knowing exactly how it would end. Mom had clearly prepared a speech. She turned to face the cameras more than me, launching into what must have been a rehearsed monologue. "For years, I've tried to help my daughter be part of this family. I've given her a home, food, everything she needs, but she refuses to support her siblings' dreams. She lives here practically rent-free, but won't contribute a penny to help Jake and Emma build their futures." That was the first lie. I had bank statements showing $800 in rent transferred to her account every single month for the past 3 years. I had never missed a payment, not once. "She steals from us." Mom continued warming to her theme. "Food disappears from the kitchen because she's too selfish to buy her own. She uses our utilities, our internet for her own purposes, but won't even appear in a single family video to help our channels grow." I bought my own groceries, which I kept in a mini fridge in my room, because my food kept disappearing from the kitchen. I had offered to pay for separate internet, but she had refused, saying it would complicate the billing. Emma chimed in with her own fabrication. "She called me ugly last week," she told the camera, her eyes wide with fake hurt. "Said I would never be as smart as her because I didn't go to college. She's always putting us down, making us feel worthless." I had never said anything remotely close to that. In fact, I had helped Emma with her community college applications 2 years ago, encouraging her to pursue her interest in marketing. But the truth didn't matter here. This was theater, and I was the villain in their story. Jake added his contribution to the fiction. "Mom's just trying to help her. We all are. But she's so stuck up with her nursing degree, thinking she's better than everyone. She won't even let me borrow her car when mine was in the shop. My car that I paid for entirely myself, that I needed to get to the hospital for my shifts." His car had been in the shop because he had been racing it and blown the engine, but that detail was conveniently omitted. The chat was divided now. Some viewers were fully buying the narrative, sending messages of support to my family. Others were starting to ask questions. Why isn't she defending herself? Why is she so calm? Something feels off about this. Mom noticed that my lack of reaction wasn't creating the drama she had hoped for. She needed to escalate. She reached into a box she had pulled from my closet and pulled out my grandmother's jewelry box again. "Look at this," she said, opening it for the camera. My mother specifically said this jewelry should be shared among all the grandchildren, but Allie hid it from everyone. I finally spoke my voice calm and clear. "Grandma's will specifically left that to me. You were there when it was read." "You know that's true." Mom's face flickered with annoyance before returning to her performance. She's always twisting things, making herself the victim. This is exactly why we had to do this intervention. She pulled out the diamond ring, my grandmother's engagement ring, that had been explicitly left to me. This should go to Emma for her future wedding, not sit in a box hidden away. She actually started to remove it from the box. "That's theft," I said simply. "You're committing theft on a live stream." The chat exploded with reactions to that, some calling me dramatic, others pointing out that I was technically correct. Mom hesitated for just a moment before putting the ring back, but the damage to her narrative had been done. She moved on quickly, trying to regain control. She dumped out a folder of papers from my desk. "Let's see what other secrets she's been keeping." The papers scattered across my bed, and I saw her eyes light up when she recognized some of them. They were letters, handwritten letters from my father's parents in Arizona. Grandparents I had reconnected with 2 years ago without telling my family. "Look at this. She's been going behind our backs, secretly talking to my first husband's family, people who have no connection to us, who she's probably telling lies about us to." Those letters were deeply personal, filled with stories about my father, memories they wanted to share with me, apologies for losing touch after he died. Mom started reading one aloud, her voice mocking the sweet words my grandfather had written about how much I reminded him of my father. The violation of privacy was so complete, so calculated, that even some of Mom's supporters in the chat were becoming uncomfortable. "This is too much," someone wrote. "Why are you reading her private letters?" But Mom was on a roll now. She had found what she thought was ammunition and wasn't going to stop. "Wait, listen to this," she said, reading from another letter. "It mentions that there was a trust fund from my father's life insurance. She's been hiding money from us. The trust fund that had just become available when I turned 28, which was exactly 5 days ago. Money that legally had nothing to do with her or anyone else in this family. Money I was planning to use to start my new life." Jake zoomed in on the letters, trying to read the amounts mentioned. "Guys, we're talking about serious money here that she's been hiding." "This is insane!" Emma was practically bouncing with excitement. "No wonder she wouldn't help us. She's been hoarding wealth while pretending to be poor." I stood there still calm, watching them create their narrative. Every lie, every twisted truth, every violation of my privacy was being broadcast to thousands of strangers. And still, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just watched. Mom, frustrated by my lack of reaction, went for something even more personal. She pulled out a small box from the back of my closet, one I had hidden behind old textbooks. When she opened it, her face showed genuine surprise for the first time. Inside were tiny baby clothes, a white onesie with little elephants on it, a pair of booties I had bought on sale, a pregnancy test showing positive, the remnants of a future I had lost 2 years ago, a miscarriage I had never told anyone in my family about because I knew they wouldn't care. Mom held up the items, confusion clear on her face before it transformed into something cruel. "Well, looks like someone had a little secret. Were you pregnant? Did you have an abortion?" "I had a miscarriage," I said quietly, the first crack in my composure showing. "Probably for the best." Mom said the words cutting deeper than anything else she had done. "You can barely take care of yourself, let alone a baby." The chat went silent for a moment, then exploded. Many viewers were now openly criticizing my family. "This is abuse," multiple people wrote. "This is disgusting. Stop watching this." But others encouraged them to continue. The donation alerts kept coming. The viewer count had hit 15,000. Mom found one last box tucked under my bed. When she pulled it out, I knew what it was before she even opened it. These were the letters my father had written to me before he died, when he was in the hospital knowing he wouldn't make it. They were my most precious possessions, the only direct connection I had to his thoughts and love. She recognized them immediately. "Oh, these old things," she said dismissively, still carrying around letters from 20 years ago like some kind of shrine. She started to open one, and I finally moved. My hand reached out not to grab the letters, but just reaching like a reflex. Then I let it drop. I knew what was coming, and I knew I needed to let it happen. "These are so morbid," she told the camera, scanning the first letter. "All this talk about death and leaving her. No wonder she's so messed up reading these depressing things over and over." Jake focused his camera on the letters. "Maybe we should burn them," he suggested. "Like a cleansing ritual. Help her move on." Emma loved the idea. "Yes, that would be such powerful content. We could do it in the backyard, make a whole ceremony of it." Mom actually moved toward the door with the letters, and that's when we heard the doorbell. Clear, loud, echoing through the house. Everyone froze. I looked at my watch. Right on time. That would be my lawyer. I said, my voice carrying a different tone now, something that made Mom stop in her tracks. "You're what?" she asked, the performance faltering. The doorbell rang again, followed by a firm knock. I walked past my frozen family down the stairs and opened the door. Margaret Stevens stood there, impressive in her tailored suit, briefcase in hand, looking every inch the successful attorney she was. "Good afternoon, Miss Morrison. Are they still filming?" "Yes," I replied. "Everything's been documented." "Perfect," she said, stepping inside. "Let's go have a chat with your family." The walk back up the stairs felt different. I wasn't alone anymore. I wasn't powerless. When we entered my destroyed room, Margaret took in the scene with professional interest. The cameras were still rolling, Jake apparently unable to help himself from capturing whatever was about to happen. "Good afternoon, everyone," Margaret said pleasantly. "I'm Margaret Stevens' attorney representing Miss Allie Morrison. I believe you're currently live streaming. Excellent. That makes this easier." She opened her briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. "First, we have a cease and desist order regarding defamation. Every false statement made on this stream has been recorded. We have documented evidence of multiple lies regarding rent payments, theft allegations, and various other fabrications." Mom found her voice. "You can't sue family." "This is ridiculous." "Actually, I can, and I am," I said calmly. "For defamation, destruction of property, and theft." Margaret continued pulling out more documents. "We also have here a copy of Miss Morrison's rental agreement showing consistent monthly payments of $800 for the past 3 years. Every payment documented and transferred." She pulled out another document. "This is the will of Dorothy Morrison, clearly stating that all jewelry in the rosewood box was to go to Allie Morrison specifically. What you've done today constitutes theft filmed and broadcast for thousands to witness." The chat was going wild. The viewer count had climbed to 25,000. This was not the content anyone had expected. Furthermore, Margaret said, her voice taking on an edge, "We've been made aware of a trust fund from Mr. James Morrison's life insurance that matured 5 days ago. As the sole beneficiary, Miss Morrison has received $200,000, which is legally and entirely hers." Mom's face went white. $200,000. "And you didn't tell us." But Margaret wasn't done. "Most interestingly, I've done some research into the property ownership of this house. It seems Mrs. Patricia Morgan never properly reviewed her mother's will. Mrs. Dorothy Morrison left 15% of this property to her granddaughter Allie Morrison." The silence was deafening. Even the chat seemed to pause. "You're lying," Mom whispered. "I have the documents right here." Margaret said, producing them. "Would you like to review them on camera?" Jake finally lowered his camera. Emma had stopped filming entirely, her face pale. The 2 strangers who had been filming quietly left the room and could be heard leaving the house. Mom sank down onto my bed, sitting among the destroyed belongings, the garbage bags, the scattered papers. Everything she had tried to do had backfired spectacularly. "I let you do this," I said quietly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "I knew you would. I've been documenting everything for 2 years. Every cruel comment, every exclusion, every lie. I have cameras too, Mom, hidden ones. And now everyone has seen who you really are." "What cameras?" Jake asked, his voice small. "The ones I installed after you went into my room and deleted my work files last year, claiming it was an accident. The ones that caught Emma stealing money from my wallet. The ones that recorded Mom telling people at her book club that I was mentally unstable and dangerous. Margaret pulled out a tablet and showed a compilation video. Clips of various incidents, all time-stamped, all showing the truth of how I had been treated in this house. The gaslighting, the theft, the deliberate cruelty. Robert chose that moment to arrive home. He walked into the chaos, took in the destroyed room, the cameras, the lawyer, his wife sitting among garbage bags. And for once, he didn't immediately take Patricia's side. "What have you done?" he asked. But he was looking at Mom, not me. "We were just trying to help her," Mom said weakly. By destroying her belongings on a live stream, Robert's voice was incredulous. "Patricia, this is insane. This is abusive." Emma finally spoke, her voice small. "Allie, I'm sorry I didn't think." "You didn't think because you never do," I said, not unkindly, just truthfully. "You just follow whatever Mom says, whatever gets views, whatever makes content." Jake set down his camera. "Mom said it would help our channels," he admitted. "She said the controversy would make us go viral." Well, I said, looking at the viewer count on Emma's phone, which was somehow still streaming. "Congratulations, you've gone viral. 28,000 people just watched you destroy your family for content." The stream finally ended when Jake reached over and turned off Emma's phone. The viewer count had peaked at 50,000 before cutting off. The sudden silence in my destroyed room felt heavy, oppressive. Everyone stood among the wreckage, the garbage bags, the scattered belongings like actors on a stage after the curtains had closed, but the lights were still on. Robert was the first to speak, and his anger was something I had never seen before in all the years he'd been married to my mother. "Patricia, do you have any idea what you've just done? You've humiliated our entire family in front of thousands of people. You've committed crimes on camera. What were you thinking?" Mom tried to rally to return to her victim narrative, but it fell flat. "I was trying to teach her a lesson about family loyalty. She's been selfish keeping secrets, hiding money." "She didn't hide anything," Robert interrupted. "It's her money, her inheritance, her life, and you just destroyed it all for what internet fame." Emma was crying now. Not the pretty tears she performed for her beauty videos, but actual ugly crying. "My sponsors," she whispered, looking at her phone. "They're already pulling out. The comments on my other videos, they're all about this. My career is over." Jake sat down heavily on my desk chair, his head in his hands. "My followers are leaving by the thousands. The wrestling channel I was negotiating with just texted. They're no longer interested." "Good," I said simply. "Maybe now you'll understand that actions have consequences." Mom stood up, trying to regain some authority. "Well, you need to help clean this up. This is your mess." "No," I said calmly. "This is literally your mess. You created it. You performed it. You can clean it up." I moved through the room carefully, picking through the destruction for the few things that truly mattered. The letters from my father, though, some were torn. The jewelry box with my grandmother's things. The baby clothes which I folded gently and placed in my work bag. Everything else could be replaced. Margaret helped me gather the salvageable items while my family watched in stunned silence. She had already called for a locksmith to come and change the locks on a storage unit she had rented for me earlier that week, anticipating something like this might happen. "Where are you going?" Mom asked as I headed for the door. "I've had a hotel room booked for 3 days," I said. I knew this was coming. Maybe not exactly this, but something. "You've been building up to it ever since I said no to being in your videos." My phone started buzzing nonstop as I walked down the stairs. Extended family, coworkers, friends from nursing school. Everyone who had seen or heard about the stream. The notifications were overwhelming, so I turned it off. There would be time to deal with that later. As I loaded my salvaged belongings into my car, Emma came outside. "Allie, wait. Please. I need to know. Was everything you documented real? Did I really steal from you?" "Yes, Emma. Last month, $40. 2 months before that, $60. You thought I didn't notice, but I did. I just didn't say anything because I knew Mom would call me a liar." She looked devastated. "I'll pay you back." "I don't want your money, Emma. I want you to understand what you've become. You're 24 years old, still living at home, letting Mom direct your entire life, including destroying your own sister for content. Is that really who you want to be?" Jake came out next, his bravado completely gone. "The stuff you said about Dad's family, about the trust fund." "How long have you been planning to leave?" 2 years, I admitted. Since Mom told me I should be grateful she didn't kick me out when I refused to lie to a landlord as a reference for you after you got evicted for destroying your apartment." "I remember that," he said quietly. "She made it seem like you were being spiteful. Everything with Mom seems like something other than what it is I said. That's what narcissists do. They create their own reality and force everyone else to live in it." Robert appeared in the doorway. "Allie, I owe you an apology. I should have stood up for you. I should have seen what was happening." "Yes, you should have," I agreed, "but you chose the easy path. It's always easier to go along with Mom than to fight her. I learned that when I was 8 years old." As I got in my car, Mom appeared one last time. "You're really going to leave? After everything I've done for you? I raised you. I kept you. When I could have sent you to your father's parents." "Everything you did for me?" I asked. "You mean using my father's death benefits to pay for this house? Using me as a built-in babysitter for Jake and Emma? Taking credit for my achievements while blaming me for anything that went wrong? Which part should I be grateful for?" She had no answer. For once, Patricia Morgan had no words, no performance, no manipulation ready. She stood there in the driveway of the house partially owned by the daughter she had just tried to destroy, watching me leave. The hotel room was a blessed relief, clean, quiet, and mine alone for the next few days. I turned my phone back on to find hundreds of messages. The stream had indeed gone viral, clipped, and shared across every social media platform. The court of public opinion had been savage to my family. Jake's Instagram had lost 30,000 followers and counting. His comments were flooded with disgust and disappointment. Several of his sponsors had publicly dropped him, not wanting to be associated with someone who participated in such cruelty. Emma's beauty channel was in free fall. Her subscriber count was plummeting, and major beauty brands were distancing themselves. One company posted a statement saying they couldn't support influencers who engaged in bullying and abuse. Mom's carefully curated Facebook image was destroyed. Her friends were unfriending her en masse. The book club she loved had removed her. The boutique where she worked part-time had already called to say she shouldn't come in tomorrow or ever. But among all the chaos and consequences, there were also messages of support. Other estranged adult children sharing their stories. Nurses from my hospital offering spare rooms if I needed them. My supervisor assuring me that my job was safe and offering me extra shifts if I needed them. My father's parents had seen the stream. My grandfather called his voice thick with emotion. "Sweetheart, we're flying out tomorrow. You're not alone. We should have fought harder to stay in your life after your father passed. We won't make that mistake again." That night, alone in my hotel room with my few salvaged possessions, I finally cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. The pretense was over. The performance had ended. I no longer had to pretend we were a family. 6 months have passed since that day, and my life looks nothing like I could have imagined. I'm writing this from my own apartment, the one with the big windows and the little balcony where my plants are thriving. The trust fund from my father combined with the settlement from the lawsuit gave me the freedom to start fresh. The legal proceedings were swift and decisive. Margaret had built an airtight case. The live stream had provided all the evidence we needed. Mom was forced to pay damages for defamation and destruction of property. She also had to formally apologize, though the words were clearly painful for her to say. The restraining order means she can't come within 500 feet of me or contact me in any way. My relationship with my siblings has evolved in unexpected ways. Jake reached out after 3 months of silence. Not for money or help, but with genuine remorse. He's in therapy now, working through his own issues with Mom's manipulation. We meet for coffee once a month, and slowly, carefully, we're building something that might resemble a sibling relationship. He's working a regular job now, having given up his influencer dreams, and he seems happier for it. Emma took longer to come around. She sent a long letter, handwritten, explaining how she had started therapy too. She's beginning to understand how Mom shaped her into a person she didn't want to be. She's back in community college studying marketing, but for real businesses, not internet fame. We text occasionally. Maybe someday we'll be sisters. Maybe not. I'm okay with either outcome. Robert divorced Mom 4 months after the incident. He sent me an email apologizing again, more thoroughly this time. He admitted he had been a coward, choosing comfort over doing what was right. He's in therapy too. It seems everyone is once mom's influence is removed. Mom, from what I hear through the grapevine, has moved to another state to live with her sister. She's still trying to rebuild her online presence under a different name, but the internet doesn't forget. Every time she posts, someone links to the live stream. She's become a cautionary tale in family vlogging communities. My father's parents have become a wonderful part of my life. We have dinner every Sunday. They tell me stories about my dad, and I finally understand where my resilience came from. My grandfather says I have my father's sense of justice, his inability to let wrongdoing stand even when it would be easier to stay quiet. At work, I was promoted to head nurse of the pediatric ward. My colleagues who saw the stream have been incredibly supportive. My supervisor said my ability to remain calm under extreme distress is exactly what makes me excellent at my job. Who knew that surviving a toxic family would be considered a professional skill? I've started dating someone, another nurse from the cardiac unit. He saw the stream before we met, and on our first date, he said he was impressed by my composure. He comes from a healthy, supportive family, and being around them has shown me what I missed, but also what I can create for myself. The hardest part of these 6 months has been grieving. Not just the family I lost, but the family I never had. The mother who should have protected me. The siblings who should have stood by me. The childhood that was stolen by one parent's death and another's narcissism. My therapist says this grief is necessary, that I can't heal what I don't acknowledge. The miscarriage I never got to grieve properly has finally been processed. I planted a tree in a local park in memory of the child who might have been. Sometimes I sit under it and think about how different life could have been, but I no longer carry that weight like a secret shame. Speaking engagements found me not the other way around. Organizations dealing with family estrangement, toxic relationships, and emotional abuse started reaching out. I now speak once a month at different events, sharing my story, and helping others recognize the signs of abuse that don't leave physical marks. The irony of Mom's plan never stops amazing me. She wanted to humiliate me, to break me, to force me back into the role of scapegoat. Instead, she freed me. Her public display of cruelty became my liberation. The thousands of witnesses she gathered became my support system. I think about that day often, standing in that doorway watching my life being destroyed for entertainment. I could have screamed, cried, fought back. But something deeper told me to wait, to let them reveal themselves, to let the truth be seen by thousands. My grandmother's letters, which I found in her old things after getting my percentage of the house sale, included one addressed to me for when I turned 30. I opened it early. It said, "My darling Allie, your mother's jealousy of you started the day you were born. You look just like your father had, his spirit, his strength. She could never forgive you for that. But what she sees as weakness, your kindness, and patience is your greatest strength. One day she will overplay her hand and you will be free. Be ready." Grandma knew. She had seen what Mom was and tried to protect me with what she could, the jewelry, the house percentage, the letters of love. She couldn't save me from the abuse, but she made sure I had an escape route. Looking at my life now, my own apartment decorated how I like it, my thriving career, my developing relationships, my peace. I realized that standing still that day was the most powerful thing I ever did. I didn't give Mom the reaction she wanted. I didn't become the villain in her story. I simply stood there and let the truth speak for itself. The last thing I want to share is what I've learned from all of this. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect, love, and support. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't waste years hoping they'll change. Document everything if you're in an abusive situation, even if you're not ready to leave yet. And most importantly, your absence from a toxic situation is not a loss for you, it's a consequence for them. If you're watching this from a home where you feel invisible, unloved, or constantly wrong, know that it's not you. The problem was never you. Start planning your escape document, everything save money in secret if you have to. Build your support network outside the family. And when you're ready, when you're safe, let them show the world who they really are. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is absolutely nothing, while someone else destroys themselves. Their performance became my evidence. Their cruelty became my freedom. The trash they threw out that day wasn't my belongings. It was my last obligation to pretend we were a family. I stood there that day not because I was weak, but because I was already gone. My body was there, but my heart, my future, my real life had already left that house. I was just waiting for the right moment to make it official. And thanks to their need for attention, for content, for validation from strangers, they gave me exactly what I needed. Now, I help other nurses recognize signs of family abuse in pediatric cases. Because dysfunction doesn't always leave bruises you can see. Sometimes it leaves invisible scars that take years to heal. But healing is possible. Freedom is achievable. And sometimes your family's worst moment becomes your best beginning. So, to my mother, if you're watching this somehow despite the restraining order, thank you. Thank you for showing everyone exactly who you are. Thank you for gathering 50,000 witnesses to your cruelty. Thank you for setting me free in the most public way possible. You gave me the one thing I never thought I'd have proof that it was never my fault. And to everyone else watching, remember this. You deserve love that doesn't require you to shrink yourself. You deserve family that doesn't make you pay for existing. You deserve peace that doesn't depend on someone else's mood. And if your family can't give you that, you have every right to build it somewhere else. That's my story. From standing frozen in a doorway watching my life being destroyed, to standing strong in my own life finally free. Sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one. And sometimes the family that throws you away is actually throwing away their last chance to know an amazing person. If this story resonated with you, if you've experienced family betrayal or narcissistic abuse, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to go no contact with toxic family members? How did you find the strength to leave? Your stories help others realize they're not alone in this struggle. Please like this video if it helped you understand that family abuse isn't always visible, and subscribe to hear more stories of survival and triumph. Share this with someone who might need to hear that their family's treatment of them is not their fault. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is living a life so peaceful that toxic people have no access to it. May you find the strength to stand still when chaos surrounds you, and the wisdom to know when it's time to walk away.